Oh really? You think so? Hmm. Oh hello, I didn't see you there. I was just chatting a bit with my friends. We were talking a bit about Beauty and the Beast, so why don't you sit down, join us, be our guest. The trope that this story follows is actually quite popular when it comes to tales. A beautiful and generally nice lady is somehow forced into marrying a monster. Not to worry, the husband in the end always reveals himself to be a nice, rich, and most importantly, odd prince. An example of this is the Greek myth of Eros and Psyche. Here, the beautiful Psyche is kidnapped and later married by Eros, the god of love. Yet, because he doesn't want Aphrodite to know about their union, he not only doesn't tell his wife who he is, but even forbids her to ever look at his face. She quite naturally assumes that her lover is a hideous monster, and convinced by her jealous sisters, when he is sleeping, lights a candle and is finally able to see his face. Eros, of course, is everything but a hideous monster. Again, is the god of love. Things went downhill when he woke up and for some reason got mad because Psyche wanted to know with whom she was sleeping. He ran away, she had to face different challenges to get him back, blah blah blah. We're not talking about Eros and Psyche, we're talking about Beauty and the Beast. Although it follows a really old trope, the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale has also existed for a long time. The tale was first passed on orally, then written down in the 18th century by a certain Beaumont, and even now the story keeps changing and it has been adapted at least another 1,000 times, some adaptations being more successful than others. But in this video we are going to analyze in particular one live-action adaptation of the original tale, which perfectly encapsulates its energy, while also making changes so that the story could apply more to modern viewers. This particular movie has a strong female lead who asserts her intelligence, charisma, and abilities, and who could be a wonderful model for young girls all across the world. Penelope. Am I imitating an off-brand version of Belle? Possibly. Is it working? No. I wish I had their coat. But yeah, it's way too warm in here for this, so way better. Now, let's talk about Penelope. As a kid, you could say that I was obsessed with it. Every time it was on TV, I had to watch it, and still now, whenever I mention it to my father, he is terrified that I will force him to watch it with me again and again and again. So yeah, this film has a really important place in my heart, right next to The Bottomless Void. But I am aware that not everyone would be familiar with this 2007 masterpiece, so for those unfortunate souls, I will do a recap of the plot. As most stories do, it all started with a curse. Without going too much details, we could say that Penelope's great-great-great-grandfather was an asshole, and because of him, the firstborn female of his family was destined to be a monster. With monster, I mean Christina Ricci with a really cute pig nose. Luckily, the curse can be broken if the girl is married by one of her kind, which is a very complex and weird way to say a noble. Penelope's mother desperately wants her to be beautiful, so she organizes plenty of dates with plenty of noblemen. They don't go too well. Apparently the normal reaction to seeing a girl with a pig nose is jumping from the window. I mean, I guess you could be interested by that or even a bit scared. It's not something you usually see, but literally jumping to your death is a bit extreme. Maybe I'm just too in love with Christina Ricci to understand what the problem is. So the shooters usually jump from the windows and try to escape, and when they do, they're caught by the butler, who brings them inside and makes them sign a contract which says that they can't tell anyone about Penelope. Which is fair, I don't know. This happens every single time, besides with Edward Humphrey Vanderman III, I think. He has a weird name. Is this rich, noble person, son of a politician, who is also presented as really handsome, which I don't get. I've seen picture of the actor and he's kind of good looking, but in this particular film, he just looks like a lizard. Am I the only one who sees that? But yeah, and as every single other suitor is terrified by Penelope. And when he runs away, he starts telling everyone about his existence. We have a problem, but not really, because no one believes him, because why would they? But actually we do, because apparently one journalist knows about Penelope, but he has never been able to find enough evidence to prove her existence. So they come up with this plan to show the world that someone not so conventionally good looking exists for some reason. And to complete this flawless and not at all problematic plan, they decide to pair up with Max, this fedora-wearing nobleman who lost everything because of his gambling addiction. He will fake being one of Penelope's suitors and then take a picture of her, and in exchange he'll have enough money to buy a whole shop full of fedoras. Sorry, but I still can't believe that one of my biggest crush as a kid wore so many fedoras. But yeah, surprise to no one, Max and Penelope start falling in love. They have these long conversations about what they want to do. They play music together, they have fun, they flirt, they make fun of each other. It's actually really adorable, but it's not a love story without an inconvenience. So Max takes by mistake a picture of Penelope. She freaks out, of course, and runs away. He runs after her, begs her to stop and listen to him, so she explains to him her curse and asks him to marry her. And he says no? What? That's not how it's supposed to go. Of course the film doesn't end here. It would be quite disappointing if it did. But before the story deviates too much from the original, I wanted to discuss why this could be considered a reenactment of Beauty and the Beast. First of all, the Beast. Penelope might not be a hairy monster, but she has some animalistic feature. Also in some illustrations of the original fairy tale, the Beast was represented basically as a boar in fancy clothes, so Penelope's pig-like nose could be considered a nod to that. Moreover, we have a curse that can be broken only by love. In the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast kind of deserved what happened to him. Transforming a teenager just because he was rude to you was kind of excessive, but still, he did something wrong to deserve it. Penelope did nothing, she just had the misfortune of having a really crappy great-great-great-grandfather. But this kind of resembles what happens in the original fairy tale. Here it's never really said whether the Beast deserves this curse or if it was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. I think the second option is more likely, like the guy asked Pal to marry him every single night, and when she said no for obvious reasons, he just silently walked away. Every single night! You could argue that at first he was arrogant and now he's just a really sad person because of the curse, but I think you need a really deep-rooted lack of self-respect for something like that. Anyway, other similarities with the original Beauty and the Beast include a really cool castle where the Beast lives in isolation, characters who really want the two protagonists to get together, self-entitled brat who hates the Beast but fancies the Beauty. So if Penelope is so obviously influenced by Beauty and the Beast, why the hell doesn't the love interest want to marry her? Surprisingly, in Penelope, the love story is not the main center of the movie. After being turned down by the only one who dared looking at her, Penelope doesn't stay there and cry. I mean, she does for a while, but first of all, she has a really good reason why to. Secondly, after that, she leaves her family house, the only place she ever knew, to go and live in the outside world. That's basically like if the Beast, after Belle ran away from his castle, just went away with Mrs. Pot and went shopping instead of following the protagonist in a forest full of wolves. That's unheard of. Of course, Penelope still doesn't go like 100% all out, she still covers her nose, but would you blame her? In the past, people had reacted to her nose in pretty drastic way, I would say. Still, she visits new places, meets new people, makes new friends, and generally makes a new life for herself. When people discover who she is, and her really cute nose, to be honest, her friends stick by her side and still love her. Penelope discovers that she can be lovable, that she can be normal, kind of. this until Edward makes his comeback. Now Penelope is liked by the general public. She went on TV, there are articles about her and on how she speaks French, I guess. Edward publicly shamed her multiple times. Of course, he had a lot of backlash. You could say that he was cancelled. So his solution to that was marrying her, even though he is remarkably repulsed by the idea of that. Like, it makes it clear that he doesn't want to. Like, way too clear. Just look at his laser face. Penelope isn't also that on board with the idea. Edward was really mean to her multiple times again, but her mother really wants her to be beautiful. To be honest, that's the only characterization that the mother has. She wants her to be beautiful. So Penelope is convinced and they arrange the marriage. Of course, that's a disaster, but Penelope bails out before it's too late. She doesn't just like her life as it is, but she even finds herself beautiful as it is. And just like that, she is not only the beast, but also the beauty, and the curse is broken. This is the climax of the movie, and the romantic interest isn't even there. So, well, the hell is Max? First of all, we learned that his name is not Max but Johnny Martin. He was just a guy who lost everything while gambling. So to gain some more money, he impersonated one of the people he used to play poker with, Max, a noble. That's also why Max, or I guess Johnny, didn't marry Penelope when he could, because a commoner couldn't break the curse. Secondly, we learned that he has been working on himself too. Some people accuse the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast of showing what essentially is a really problematic and toxic relationship. This because Belle falls in love with a really flawed and terrible person that she believes she can fix. I don't completely agree with this, because in the Disney version, Belle falls in love with the Beast only after he agrees and decides to change, not while he is actively screaming at her. Yet it's undeniable that both in this version of the tale and the original one, it's Belle's role to help the Beast better himself. In Penelope, the protagonist doesn't even know that her love interest has a gambling addiction. She discovers that only when he has already overcome that. Basically, the two protagonists grew up and better themselves separately, so when they finally meet up, they are the best version of themselves. It's also interesting to notice that during the film, after their fight and before they meet up, the two had actually met a couple of times, but Penelope always gave him the cold shoulder, of course only after having shared a long and intense staring contest. She forgives him only when she finds out the real reason why he broke her heart. This demonstrates the gain of a lot of self-respect coming from the same girl who begged Johnny to marry her, while also saying that she would kill herself if the curse didn't break with their marriage, to relieve him from his burden. Yeah, that was an intense scene, but now you understand what I mean when I said that the two characters weren't ready for each other at the beginning of the film. Not a lot of films are willing to explore the fact that sometimes love is not enough. You need to grow as a person, as an individual person, before committing to a serious relationship. And that's what happened with Penelope and Johnny. So do I think that love is the main point of Penelope? No, to me the film seems to be more about loving yourself and growing as a person. Does that mean that I didn't replay over and over and over again the kissing scene with my best friend at 2 a.m. while studying how hot James McAvoy is? It's still a rom-com. And in my defense, James McAvoy is always hot, even when he's wearing fedoras. So now we know why this film follows the same trope as Beauty and the Beast, and why it differs from it. But we still don't know why it exists. Fairy tales are not just stories about princesses and witches. They usually have the purpose of teaching kids something. They present problems to their listeners while simplifying them with good versus bad narratives. In Beauty and the Beast, the lesson is quite clear. Don't worry too much about looks, it's your personality what really matters. However, there's way more to that. Beaumont, one of the first people who wrote down the Beauty and the Beast tale, wanted the story to show how young brides are supposed to act. First of all, for example, by transferring their affection from the father to the groom. Secondly, by focusing on how well-meaning her new partner is and not on his looks or his bland personality, something that in the original tale is remarked on an alarming number of times. This of course is an horrible and really antiquated way of thinking, but Beaumont lived in the 18th century when girls didn't really have a say on who they were gonna marry. The Beauty and the Beast story wasn't just a good example on what to do, but offered brides also a hope that with enough patience their husband could become someone they were at least friendly with. In the original Beauty and the Beast, Belle is quite clear that even when she agrees to marry the Beast, she doesn't do that out of love, but out of respect for his kindness. However, now the situation is quite different, thankfully. Arranged marriages are not the norm anymore, so girls don't have to worry about them. So on what a modern rendition of Beauty and the Beast should focus? What lesson could it deliver for its young viewers? Why not beauty standards and self-esteem? Many researches prove that girls usually have bigger self-esteem issues than guys, and this is particularly true during the adolescence years. Everyone strives to be beautiful, and we know what beauty is because we are told again and again and again. Skinny, tall, cute nose. These are all factors that are not dictated by anything objective like biology, but by social norms. Girls who don't conform to the norm are usually believed to be ugly, and consequently less desirable, lowering their self-esteem. All this based on something that they have no control over, like Penelope had no control over her curse. So is this the lesson that Penelope tries to convey? There's more to someone than their looks? That's basically the same message as Beauty and the Beast, just with a deeper focus on Beast's insecurities. Don't judge a book by its cover. Ugly people can be nice sometimes. But Penelope is not actually arguing that, or at least not only that. During the whole movie, Penelope's mother tells her that she is more than her nose, that once the curse is broken, her external beauty will reflect her internal one. These are quite nice statements at a first glance, however, it's soon clear that they're not just saying, "Hey daughter, I think you're cool, I like you." They are also saying, "Hey daughter, I think you're ugly." And that's the thing, she can't love herself, because people who don't conform to beauty standards are not beautiful, and their only hope of being happy with themselves is not caring about their looks but focusing only on their personalities. Penelope doesn't transform just because she starts loving herself despite her nose, because she is cool. She never had a problem recognizing her internal beauty, but the curse is broken only when she finds herself 100% beautiful, including her nose. Even when she becomes beautiful and normal, she says that she misses her old nose. I wish that in the original Beauty and the Beast, at the end the prince was like, "Screw it, I want my fur back." I, as many others, am really insecure about my nose, and that was especially true as a teenager. Back then the situation was so bad that to take a selfie I only used those god-awful black and white filters that make your nose disappear. I used to stare at my reflection for way too long just wondering why I had such a big nose, and I used to develop a crush on every single guy that was even remotely nice to me, because I was sure that no one would ever love me just because I had a big nose. Looking back, that was a bit too dramatic, but then again, I was a dramatic kid, so Penelope showed me that I can and should love every part of myself, even those that are not perceived as conventionally attractive. It showed me that I deserve more than the first guy who is willing to take me because I'm worth more. So did that help me overcome my insecurities? Now, of course, I'm still insecure about my nose and many other stuff, but still, it was nice to see for once.